Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to learn how to assemble our sign that we made in a previous video to our sign or award base here using a rigid constraint. Then when we're done, we're going to create an exploded view from it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Come on up and start a new design. We're going to go ahead now, and before you do an assembly, it's important that you save it. So we're just going to call it sign award assembly. Okay, and hit save. And now I'm going to go ahead and insert the base here that we made in a previous video, and we're going to insert it into current design. We're going to right click and select insert into current design, and I'm going to orientate it or move this guy around to a position that I like. So I'm going to kind of select like right there. I'm going to rotate it around and do something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And now I'm going to come on over here. I'm going to right click ground, okay, because we don't want it to move. It basically locks it into place. All right, now I'm going to bring in my sign. So I'm going to right click, insert into current design, and I'm going to place it in a favorable manner here. And I like to place it in a manner where it's going to look like it falls right into place to where we want it. So I'm going to kind of place it right above the slot, okay. And one thing you want to make sure if you're in my class and you are making this, make sure that the front of your sign, the part that we're going to engrave on, is not facing this hole in the back here. Remember, we're going to drill that out and we're going to put a wire through there. And you want the front of your sign to be on the opposite side of this hole. Okay. So anyways, this position looks pretty good and it looks like my sign is facing the opposite direction. So I'm going to go ahead now and select OK. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble our sign here to our sign base here. All right, and we're going to use what's called a rigid constraint. And a rigid constraint basically restricts all movement. So there's no movement in the X, Y, or Z direction. Okay, so it's basically locked into place. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Come on up to assemble, select joint, and a rigid joint, like I said, will not allow any movement. So we're going to select rigid, make sure it says that. And then you got to think now when you're doing assemblies in Fusion 360, when we put these two parts together, what are the mating parts? In other words, which faces or points are going to match up with other points? So I'm going to click and I think, okay, so that point right there, I think it will match up with, well, that point. Let me zoom in right there. Let me move my mouse right there. And sure enough, there we go. I'm going to hit OK. All right, and you can see our rigid constraint has been applied. And there we go. All right. And when we're done manufacturing this in my class, what we'll do is we will flip this guy over. We'll run our wires in here. We'll put our USB, or excuse me, our LED light right here, okay, along this boring hole, and our USB cable will come through this hole, okay. All right, so now that we have it assembled, we got to do one more thing. We got to make an exploded view out of it, okay. So let's go ahead now and save this again. But before we can create an exploded view, we have to create an animation. So we're going to come on up here to design and we're going to select animation. Okay. And we're just going to pull this guy apart here. So get it in a position I like. And then I'm going to come up here to transform. Okay. I'm going to click on this part and I'm just going to move it up. Something like that. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Hit OK. And I'm going to right click here, show hide trail lines, because I like to see the line that kind of shows it going into place. All right, and then we can actually animate it. Let's go ahead and hit play. Okay, and I don't like the zoom feature, so I like to delete it, and then I can just sort of see it play here. And there you go. Okay, there is our exploded view. So it basically shows how parts come together or are assembled. Okay, now that that's done, we can create our exploded view. So come on up to animation here, and we're going to do a drawing from, not from design, but from an animation. And we're going to select sheet size A and landscape proportion. So we want 11 inches by 8.5 inches. Okay, select that guy and hit OK. And it's going to bring in our part, and it's a little small, so I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to make it, instead of a half, I'm going to make it 1:1. And let's give it some color here. And I'm going to click on the screen, and I'm going to hit OK. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this title block, hit delete, and I'm going to move this sort of down out of the way. And now let's go ahead and add a parts list and some balloons to this guy. So we're going to come on up here and we're going to select our table, and it's going to automatically select our parts here. And if not, you can change it and you can select the actual ones, but I think we're probably pretty good. So I'm just going to sort of click up here. Okay. And that's pretty good, but I'm going to change a few things here and I want you to do the same. So I'm just going to hit escape and I'm going to click on this guy. And I don't want description, so I'm going to uncheck that. I do want part name, part name, and I want the mass of it. Okay. And let's see here. I do want material. And let's go ahead and hit close and see if we can shrink down some of these, change some of these table sizes here, because that's really big. Now looks pretty good, but the fact that our part is kind of sort of crossing over onto our parts list, I'm just going to right click here, edit view, and I'm going to shrink it down. Instead of 1:1, I'm going to try 0.8 to 1. So I'll make it a little bit smaller, hit close. Okay, we got our balloons, we got our parts list, we're looking good. Our parts list has the weight of the object, the material, high density polyethylene and acrylic, our part names, our part numbers, the quantity, and the item. So number 1 here is our base, and number 2 here is our actual sign, right? That we saved them as. Okay, don't forget to save when you're done. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.